Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to talk about some of the worst makeup I have tried so far this year. So before I get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. So I feel like there have been so many releases already this year. I feel like I've tested out so much new makeup, and there have been some things that just didn't do it for me. So we're going to talk about those. So we have 2 complexion products and the rest are all eyes. So the first one that I'll mention really quickly is the Dior Forever Skin Glow Foundation. This one was reformulated, and I believe this one was released toward the very end of December. So I picked this one up. I haven't tried the original formula, but I did try this one. And while it does give the skin a really pretty luminosity, the shade almost pulls too yellow, which is already a pet peeve of mine in general. Just as somebody with a more neutral to cool undertone, things that pull yellow just do not work out for me. So I did find that this pulled a little too yellow, but one thing I also found was that this just really didn't last a long time on my skin. There are some foundations that I can put on in the morning and they are going to stick with me all day long. This just didn't do that. I felt like this wore off and was starting to look pretty rough around the 6-hour mark every time I tried to wear it, and it didn't wear off the most gracefully. I kept trying to like this. I wore this so many times and I just couldn't make myself like it. So unfortunately, this is just not one of the best things I've tried this year. A foundation that I liked even less than the Dior Skin Glow is from One Size, and this is the Turn Up the Base BBB cream. So this is their Beauty Blur Balm, and I wanted to love this because I really love the One Size concealer. So good. Best concealer. So this is supposed to smooth out your skin, be super buttery, make your skin look plump and healthy, but also hydrate your skin. This absolutely does not make my skin look hydrated. This is so dry. This just really clings to any dry patches. My skin feels tight when I have it on. It is just the most dry product. This is another one that I tried multiple times to make this work. I found that this gave really good coverage. This was actually a pretty high coverage foundation, and I wasn't expecting that. I was definitely expecting like a very light coverage, sort of like a skin tint, but this ended up giving full coverage. So I really liked that. I really liked how it perfected my skin. I liked the coverage. It just zapped any sort of hydration out of my skin, and I think for oily skin types, I think you will absolutely love this, but for my dry skin, this was not it. Okay, let's move into the eyes. So the first palette I tried and really did not like was from Too Faced, and this is the Too Femme eyeshadow palette. The color story is absolutely stunning. So last year in the springtime, Too Faced released the Teddy Bear palette, and it actually ended up being a really great little palette. This one I thought would be similar. Too Faced is incredibly inconsistent with their formulas. The makeup they release around the holidays, not so good. The eyeshadows they release in the tin packaging tend to be better, and then their spring release for 2021 was great. This one was not it. This I had such high hopes for because the color story is absolutely stunning. But the problem was, first of all, the mattes were incredibly powdery. There was a ton of kick up. That wouldn't normally bother me. But after all of the kick up, the shimmers were often quite chunky. There was a ton of fallout. And then these other mattes here, there was just not much pigment. I do understand some people prefer much lighter eyeshadows. Some people aren't trying to pack on the pigment, and that's great. But for something like this, I do expect that the colors are going to be a little bit more true to what we see here. But this one is just not it. There's no pigment to any of the shades. There's a ton of kick up. The glitters are chunky. This just didn't work out for me at all. Okay, the next palette is from Urban Decay. And this one I don't necessarily hate, but it's just not my favorite. But it's one that I'm going to give a few more chances to. This is the Wild Greens palette. So first of all, the packaging on this one, I know they're trying to go in a different direction, but it's kind of strange. I wish there was a mirror, especially for the price point of Urban Decay. The color story I really enjoy. I love seeing these greens, and some of these top shades up here are really, really beautiful. But this was another one that wasn't heavily pigmented, and it's not bad. It's not nearly as bad as the Too Faced. It's just not what I expected from Urban Decay. And for that reason, I think this disappointed me. Also because it's called the Wild Greens, I definitely did expect a lot more greens than just these few on the bottom. But overall, this isn't a terrible palette. It's just not my favorite, and it's not what I expected. So I think this one just fell a little bit short for me. The next palette is from Artist Couture, and this is the Supreme Mauves palette. I've talked about this one quite a few times recently, so I won't stay here too long. But this one, the color story is beautiful. We're definitely in a trend right now of rosy toned eyeshadow palettes. But the problem with this is that the shimmers are so dry. The mattes are perfectly fine, but this is a really expensive palette and the shimmers are very dry. The shimmers definitely, to me, perform not so great. They perform like a very low-end shimmer formula. This shade Risque, there's a ton of just glitter fallout. It's just not great. And the rest of these, they're just really dry and hard to work with, and you just end up with a lot of fallout. So this one just also isn't a favorite. The absolute very worst product I have tried so far this year has to be the Charlotte Tilbury Matte Eyes to Mesmerize. So I have two shades. I have Nude Cashmere and Flawless Beige. So I'll just open up Flawless Beige. And I had such high hopes for these. I really like the original Eyes to Mesmerize formula. The shimmers, very pretty. I really enjoy them, but these are just not good, and I have seen so many people say the exact same thing. So when you look at it initially, it just looks really creamy, and you think it's going to be good, but when you go in, it's almost like a very hard clay, and if you can pick up enough to put it on the lid, you can, but you can't really blend it out because it sets down way too quickly. They are long wearing, I will give them that, because if you can get them on the lid and you can get them to blend out, they will stick around all day, but they are really just like a hard clay formula. It's a very strange formula. I was really shocked to see something like this from Charlotte Tilbury. If you're familiar with my channel, Charlotte Tilbury is probably my favorite makeup brand overall. And I enjoy their products. I love the aesthetic of their products. I do try to review every single new thing they come out with. And I usually like most things, but these were just a really big miss for me. I'm really disappointed in these. That is it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. And that's it for me today. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!